Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Dayna Show. I'm your host, Dayna Kaplan. As usual, I bring up the hostages at the beginning of the show just to remind everyone that we still have our hostages there and we think about them every single day. Episode 42 is a special one for me because Abba Horowitz isn't just a guest. He's someone who's had a real impact on my life. In times like these, when so many of us are glued to the news and pulled towards negativity, his wisdom has been a lifeline for me. The first time he came on the show, he introduced me to the power of the subconscious mind. And since then, I've seen how his teachings can shift not just your thoughts, but your life. In this episode, we talk about the ego and how it hurts us, how to recognize and control our thoughts, and even the sources in the Torah that support these ideas. Abba blends timeless spiritual wisdom with practical tools, and every time we speak, I walk away with more clarity, hope, and purpose. And I'm sure you will too. Am Yisrael Chai. Let's get into it. Abba Horowitz. How you doing? Welcome back to the Dayna Show.
I'm doing great.
For everybody who's watching or listening, Abba Horowitz was here for episode 15.
Okay.
Episode 15, my first podcast in this studio.
Wow.
And I'm so excited that you came back.
What episode are we on?
43, I think.
Wow. Okay.
I think it's 43.
Okay.
Odmat, I'm going to get to 50 to 50.
Okay.
I'll do something big for 50.
We'll have a party.
We'll have a big party. Yeah, I should do that, right?
Yeah.
Wow. You know, every single guest that I've had on the show, I feel like it's been min hashamayim. Like every single person that's come has like taught me something, has like enhanced my life. And I hope that it enhances other people's lives as well. But I feel like I'm being a little selfish because it's done something for me. It's helped me grow in a certain way. And you specifically have really changed my life.
Wow.
After our episode, everything changed. My whole mind shifted. And I see things from a completely different perspective. I watch what I say. I know that my words have a lot of value, so I'm very careful. And I also pick up on the way that other people talk as well. And I hope that with this podcast or with your influence, we could change a lot of things in people's lives.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
To share with people wisdom that I was fortunate to discover, and that's changed my life and for so much the better, and my family and everyone, but and you now and many other people, and to just think differently. And there's a lot of pit holes in Israel specifically that hold you back from realizing your true self and your happy self, your joyful self, and your productive self. And we need to find ways to spread this idea of thinking, the real way of thinking, the God's way of thinking, to change people. Yeah.
When we met last time, you said that after the whole Pinoy from Gush Katif, that's when you started to make this shift.
Yeah.
How has your life changed since you've done that?
So that's an excellent question. And I'll say, there's a Tehillah Mimamakim Karaticha Hashem, from the depths I call to you, Hashem. Sometimes you got to go to the depths. Sometimes you need to go to the point where it's rock bottom on certain things. And I would say Gush Katif turned me into a very angry person. And what happens is you start to understand is that it's not pleasant to be angry. So you need to work yourself back up. You need to figure out, well, what do I do? How do I work myself away from here? I don't want to be this person, but how do I change? What am I doing wrong? So I'll tell you a really cool story is that I used to smoke cigarettes, okay, when I was in university, and then that followed up until I came to Israel in my mid-30s, till my mid-30s, let's say. And I knew I needed to stop. I knew it wasn't healthy. I wanted to stop so badly. And I tried all kinds of things, okay? And then I just turned to God and I said, I don't know what to do. I just really want to stop smoking, and I let it go. And then I walk into a Barnes& and Noble store and I see a book literally in my face, How to Stop Smoking by Alan Carr.
Yeah.
And I felt it was like siyata dishmaya, like literally God saying, here, read this book, you'll be okay. And I took the book and it just completely resonated with me. I don't know if you know what familiar
Of
with the
course,
book.
I do.
It's a brilliant book. It just on a psychological level was brilliant. I read the book and I stopped smoking. And if I may just add one other little funny story, not funny story, but beautiful story in that, is 3 months in, they always warn you that 3 months in, when you smoke, you better be very careful because you'll feel very good about yourself that you've gone 3 months no smoking, and you're going to allow yourself to actually have a cigarette. So I'm in Miami Beach in a hotel on the ocean, and I'm on my balcony and I'm watching at nighttime, watching the water. It's just so calming. And I go, this would be amazing to have a cigarette.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's one cigarette? What harm will that be? And I go downstairs to the shop in the hotel and I say to the guy, I go, can I have a pack of Marlboro Lights? And the guy goes, yeah, sure. He goes, I used to smoke those. I go, oh, wow, you quit? He goes, no, cancer. And I look into myself and I go, okay, that's a message from God. And I put the cigarettes right back and I was able to continue. It was God literally saving me at that moment. Don't be stupid. Okay. Don't smoke it. And so that led me to Gush Kativ and all, because I was in that funk after Gush Kativ. And what happened was I went into Barnes& and Nobles again. Seems Barnes& and Nobles is the place to save me. And there's a book there in my face, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And I said, oh, wow, I know this book because my father had it. And I said, I could really use some of that. And I bought the book and then I read it 10 times. And I started to practice a lot of the things in the book. And Norman Vincent Peale was a reverend of Reformed Protestant. Reformed Protestant is essentially, doesn't have any of that shtick of the church, you know what I mean? It's more about doing good and being a good person and believing in God. And once in a while, he sprinkles Jesus into it, okay? And you always wonder, why are you sprinkling Jesus in here? It's not even necessary. But more importantly was he had amazing ideas about how to think positively, how to change your thinking, to understand that your whole life is decided by your thinking. And I think that's what you've learned as well, right? How you think is how your life goes. It just is. When God created the world, it says, Allah b'machshava tchila, that God actually thought first. And the Zohar actually says that. There's a Zohar that says the world was created through thought and speech. Right? Because then we know, Yom Elokim, Yehi Or. So Hashem said, go, there should be light. So we understand that thought and speech are these powerful, powerful tools of just so powerful in terms of creative forces. And so when you understand that, and I understood that, I had to start changing the way I thought. And it was a long process, because to understand, when you're younger, a younger person like who's 20, it's easier to change them. But when you're in your 40s or 50s and you've accumulated so much crap, you need to actually go on what's called a mental diet. You need to literally go on a full-on mental diet, just like someone who's gained a lot of weight and needs to lose weight, they go on a physical diet. So when you go through this and you start to understand, I need to change the way I think, it may not be enough for you to just do some small exercises, but you need to go on a full diet.
But you told me that's what you're doing now.
And right now I'm on a full diet, and because I was traveling for a couple months, came back to Israel. It was easy when I was traveling, but when I came back to Israel, there's a lot of stuff here.
Shitstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just drive on the road and you're seeing signs of hate and everyone from all ends hating and this and that. And you're like, I can't receive this. I refuse to receive this. I can't. And it really goes down to this deeper idea is when you look at a person, you have two choices. You can look at a person from an ego perspective and say, either, wow, I really like that person. Oh, wow, that person's a schmuck. Right? And for whatever reasons, even if he hasn't done anything to you decide, or he's chiloni, or he's charedi, or this or that. Or you can look at the fact that this person is actually a spirit of God, right? And to say, he's actually a neshama. I'm connected to him because my neshama is connected to his neshama, and we're all connected to God. So we're actually all one. How can I actually hate him? Where's this hatred coming from? And it always comes to one place. All that always comes from one place, and it's called the ego. Okay? Or we'll call it, now rephrase it, the Yetzer Hara. That's
Why is the Yetzer Hara so strong? It feels sometimes that it's even stronger than the Yetzer HaTov
Yeah.
or your good thoughts. Like I told you before, every morning I wake up and I have to I struggle to get myself to the baseline level of being able to accept positive thought. And I want to try to get out of it because it's like and I'm working on it and I work on my subconscious, but it's there.
Yeah.
Why is it so strong?
So because it masks itself in a form that is trying to protect you. Okay? The Yetzer Hara, remember, it can serve good too, right, on a certain level. So the Yetzer Hara, the ego, we'll call it, because there's really no word in Hebrew for ego. In modern Hebrew there is, enochiyut, but in biblical and in Talmudic literature, there is no word for ego. So we'll call it the Yetzer Hara, because I think that's really what it is. And in fact, I think it was he's English. What's his name? He's fantastic, from the 60s.
With the Beatles?
No. One of the mystics from the 60s.
Okay.
He actually used the word Yetzer Hara. He actually called the word Yetzer Hara. But I think for lack of better terms, Yetzer Hara is really that. Yetzer Tov, you could say, is your soul, and Yetzer Hara is your ego. And that's really where the conflict is happening, right? Overcoming the Yetzer Hara is really understanding is that I have this godliness inside of me that guides me, which is your lev, essentially, your heart. And then you have the ego that's coming as protection. So for example, if you see someone, right, and you say, well, I hate him, right? So why would you say that about the person? So your ego's saying it. And the reason your ego's saying it is because maybe you're put off by this person, or you're intimidated by him. A way of protecting you is, well, I hate him, so therefore I don't need to deal with him. So those will be the ways that the Yetzer Hara will dress itself in a certain way and try and come off as helping you, protecting you. The idea of the ego is that the only way to really get around the ego is to actually use meditation where you observe your thoughts. Okay? So in other words, we don't do that. We don't observe our thoughts. Generally, most people don't observe their thoughts or their speech. Most people just babble away, and a lot of people, the thoughts are coming all the time. And here's the crazy part about thoughts. We don't control them. They're just coming. You can't stop your thoughts.
Right.
Right? How many are there? There's 60,000 thoughts a minute or second. I don't remember exactly the exact number. And if you close your mind and try and stop your thoughts, you actually can't. So where are these thoughts coming from? Who's sending them? Right? So there's a whole other force out there sending thoughts to your mind. So the goal is to try and observe those thoughts. But that begs the question, who's this observer observing your thoughts? How can I observe my own thoughts if those thoughts are mine? Right? So that opens a whole kind of, we won't call it Pandora's box because it's not. It's just this incredible place where you start to understand there's a lot more going on out there, especially with my thoughts. There's a pasuk, Rabot machshavot belev ish. We got a lot of thoughts. Most of them suck. Okay?
Yeah.
V'atzat Hashem hi takum. It's the counsel of God. The thoughts of God are the ones that you want to keep. You want to keep the ones that are coming from your soul, that are coming from your higher self, as they call it. That's the buzzword today, higher self. But really, it's your neshama, your soul, your divinity. What's coming from your divinity is what you want to keep. And all the other crap, let it go. Okay? So I'm going pretty deep here, but the idea is to learn how to manage your thoughts and manage your speech. Speech is easy. Just shut up, right? When we were in Antigua, Guatemala, my wife and I were in Chabad there, okay? And phenomenal Chabad, phenomenal food, incredible place. What an amazing guy there. And he gets up and they want to say tefillah for the Chayalim. And as long as, and there's hundreds of people there, hundreds of people in this Chabad. And as long as they can't say the tefillah for the chayalim and the chatufim, we're not starting the meal. And the rabbi gets up, he had a couple shots already, and he goes, I have a very important message for all of you. Don't be a schmuck. Okay? And I think we can take that lesson for life. Don't be a schmuck. Don't be a schmuck. Your thoughts are there. You don't have to accept your thoughts. When you have a thought that comes to you and it sucks and makes you feel like crap, take a breath, take a step back and say, is this real or is this just air thoughts?
But what do you do in the situation when you're really working on yourself and you have more or less control over your thoughts, but you're in an environment where the people around you are not on your level, are not thinking on the same level? And it happens. You could be in difficult situations or with difficult people who have a lot of negativity and talk in a different way. How do you protect yourself when you're immersed in that environment?
Right. So those are toxic situations.
Right. You can't remove yourself from every situation,
Well,
whether
you
it be at
can't.
work or with someone in your family. Like I found after we started working together and talking, I'm much more aware when I hear somebody talk in a way that's not productive or
Right.
toxic. But you can't always help it, and you feel their negative energy around you. How do you protect yourself from that?
Okay. So first of all, it's an excellent question. If you can excuse yourself from that situation, because that would be really the ultimate, because you're not gaining anything from that, right? It's just toxic air around you. And just the point of that too is that speech has very high vibrations,
Right.
right? High energy, high vibration around you. It affects everything. God created the world with speech. We see it's a tremendous, powerful creative force. So when you're around people talking crap, the problem is that, you don't want it to affect you. So here's the best thing in my mind to do, okay? And it's almost, I don't know, Eckhart Tolle
Yes,
or
of
Eckhart
course.
Tolle,
Yes.
right? What would he do, okay? So you could ask that question. What would he do? He'd be smiling. He'd be smiling because he'd say, I know that this isn't the real person. This is the facade of that person. It's not real. This is the ego talking, all this stuff. But deep down, there's a soul in there. There's a holy soul inside that person, right? But in our world today, and even in the Jewish world, especially in the Jewish world, we've separated the two. But really, this person has an neshama. And what I would do, so now I'm going to tell you what I would do. Most likely, I would be inside, possibly saying to my wife or someone, let's get the hell out of here, if I could. And if you can't excuse yourself, I would probably be doing ho'oponopono, which is saying, thank you, I love you. Just trying
I'm
to
sorry,
that
please
energy.
forgive me. Thank you, I love you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you.
Yeah, and just doing that because I'm at least creating positive energy around me, which should protect all the energy that's here. And I don't want this negativity to come in here. As everyone knows, we've been in Israel for 2 years with this war and the Chatufim, and it's just endless, right? Post-COVID, there's endless things to keep everybody in a state of panic.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, there's a guy, Amit Segel. He's he is one of the purveyors of panic, okay, and fear and worry and doubt to Am Yisrael, like all other Itonaim,
Yeah.
okay?
And all of social media.
Correct. And in fact, the
Sorry.
reason I chose him, Amit Segel, because he was at a conference and he actually said in a cynical way, he goes, we're all here to create panic for the people. Because when people are in panic, they are glued to the television, they're glued to the news, and it's good for ratings, it's good for advertising dollars, it's good for their salaries. And he said it cynically, but it's the truth. It really is true. They create panic, and panic is the lowest vibration a person could be on. So when a person's in that state of panic, he's frozen. He can't do anything. Okay? He can't think creatively. He can't, his business probably suffers because he's in panic mode. His family suffers because he has no joy. And also, the worst part is it creates illness because you're in that state all the time. You're susceptible to getting sick. It's ridiculous. So we need to overcome that. And if I could say to anybody listening to this, stop watching TV, stop watching the news, stop watching social media, don't read newspapers. It is the devil. That is Satan. If you want to know what Satan is, that destroys your whole life, is that, because it just brings you down and provides no positivity to your life.
And makes you feel these unnatural feelings that otherwise you would never have.
Correct.
You know, I look at social media not as the Satan, but as the Yetzer Hara, right? Maybe they're this part of the same team.
Right, because it could massage your ego.
Right.
Right? Oh, he's a schmuck. Oh, look, they agree with me that he's a schmuck.
But I have this internal conflict, especially with this podcast, because on one hand, I know that it's not good for me. I watch my thoughts and how I feel pre, during, post, looking at social media, especially on Instagram. It brings up all of these unnatural emotions of your self-confidence and your worth, and it's like it's bullshit.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I need it to help me grow. So I have this conflict of how much time should I invest on it? Like if I lose followers, like a few days ago, I lost a whole bunch of followers. I told you, and initially I was like, oh my God, I feel like I've just been shot in the chest, right? And then I was like, this is nuts. That's not reality.
No.
What is determining my success has nothing to do with that. It has something to do with a higher power and how I feel about myself. So I think a lot of people struggle with that because I noticed also when you go through social media, everything there is inflammatory. Everything there is to evoke a certain emotion. And it's not, it's what's the word? It's a very intense concentration of negative opinions, and we are exposed to it on such a crazy level and a really high frequency, and people are getting destroyed from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a huge issue. And like I said before, I have a huge issue because I need it, but I know it's so unhealthy. Help me.
Yeah, it's a conundrum.
It is.
Yeah,
It
it
is.
is a conundrum in that way. And even in this area of, let's say, mystical, self-help, law of attraction, manifestation, they're also using social media to get the word out there. And there's wonderful, YouTube channels for that. There's wonderful private channels for that. But they're using social media in order to push it. So in other words, there's always a good thing to it as well. Remember, there's some bad behind it, but it's a way of also spreading good. So yeah, the worst thing ever created of all time was thumbs up, thumbs down,
Why do you say that?
because that already rated people. That decided whether you're good or bad, and people would start to feel, right away it was directed to your ego. Do you like this? I decide this is good, or I decide this sucks. And then the person looking at his video or whatever it may be says, oh, he rated me good or bad. And then he takes it inward and decides that this person has now judged me. So it all literally is just an ego trap for so many people. Okay. And you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware when you put thumbs up, thumbs down. When people write comments on and I used to do this myself. Let's say Arut Sheva, just to take an example, right? So Arut Sheva puts an article out and you disagree or dislike this person, or you agree and you like this person. And then you write a comment. What is that? Who are you writing for that? I mean, you're writing something, it goes in the ether because it's there now forever. And you've written a comment that's coming from your ego. It's pure ego comment. Has that helped you in any way? Are you a better person now once you've written that comment? Have you changed the minds of people because you've written that comment, for the good or bad? What is that? So these things, you want to take a step back sometimes and say, and question, as I always said last show, you got to question everything that you're doing. You need to question everything we do. And especially when it comes to things, how is this reflecting on me as a person? Is this making me happy? Because really the state that God wants you in all the time is joy. Ivdot Hashem b'simcha. Okay? He didn't say Ivdot Hashem with sadness or with shuckling more. Ivdot Hashem b'simcha. You got to worship God with joy. The way to get to God is through joy. Okay? The way that's a navi, a prophet, can only receive prophecy if he is in a state of joy. So we need to be in a state of joy. We need to figure a way. The universe dances and sings. Okay? The universe, that's how that works here. Everything is joy. The malachim on a daily basis are singing shira to God.
How do you know that?
What? It's a Gemara Chagiga. Okay? So that the malachim are singing to God every day. It's the question over there is, what does God do with his day? So one part of the day is where the malachim are singing shira to God. He's almost, you would have this almost sense, again, it's much deeper than that clearly, but the sense that you would have is God's chilling and his malachim are singing. And there's also an interesting thing that there's this medrash in a book called Sefer Hasidim where he says that David HaMelech, before he would pray to God, he would play his harp so that he could get into a state of simcha, of joy, and then he would then pray to God. And I just recently saw this piece. It was on the Zohar. It was this commentary on the Zohar that was writing stuff in the name of Reb Chaim Vital, who was the student of the Arizal, who took all the notes and everything like that. And he actually has this very, very strong line where he says, you can't daven to God. It's usher to daven to God if you're sad. Okay? Now,
Wait, so what if you're having a really hard time?
yeah. So I think that was my question too. Okay. It's a very good question. And I think what he was really talking about was everyday davening. So when you're going to daven every day, your Shachrit Mincha Mara, which are essentially mantras. Okay. They're all mantras. And when you do that kind of davening, you better get yourself into a state of joy. As we said before, Mimamakim Karaticha Hashem. There are certain times where you're in a bad place and you pray to God. But it seems to be that when you want to do these prayers of Shemona Esrei, it has to come from a state of simcha. And I think that that's what's missing is that Judaism, a lot of Judaism over the last 2,000 years has turned into very negative Judaism. So you're going to get punished. You're going to burn. You're not sad enough on Tisha B'Av. Okay? Or you should be crying over your Averos on Yom Kippur. Okay? But what's so interesting about all that is actually wherever you read actually the real sources, like if you read Rosh Hashanah, okay, the source in the Torah Shulchan Aruch, which is from the 1300s, he quotes this beautiful medrash, you need to be happy. Yom Kippur, there's no greater day than Yom Kippur because all our sins are forgiven. So we need to be happy. We always need to be happy, right? And there was Samachta b'chagecha, God's telling you, be happy. So there's always this element of joy. And in order to get close to God, we need joy. So how do you explain everything? And here's where I think the shift is happening today. We all grew up with fear Judaism.
Right.
But we're transitioning to love Judaism. Okay? Fear is from the mind. Love is from the soul. Right?
Yeah.
So we're transitioning now from a different Judaism. You know, the way the yeshivas learn Torah is very intellectual. Okay? And it's wrong, actually, the way we're learning Torah, because there has to be this neshama component in Torah that's not there. Why?
It's not.
Okay? And actually, someone recently told me a really good insight. He says, you know, the Gemara is written with stories and drushim, and then regular halacha, and obviously these stories are Kabbalah, okay? And the idea behind why did the rabbis set up the Gemara, the Talmud in this way? And the answer was so that both the right and the left brain will be used while learning Torah. But what has happened in the yeshiva world is they skip all that stuff and they only focus on halacha, which is the intellectual side or your left brain thinking. And they completely do not develop the right brain thinking. Well, Our rabbis in the Gemara, that was what they were doing. They were synthesizing the two together to make them one. It was like a coherence of the two, okay? And I think that's where we're going now. Odmat, we read Parshat Shoftim, right? And there's a commentary, Or HaChaim HaKadosh, where he says there that in time of Geula, we'll be moving from fear Judaism to love Judaism.
Can we do it now?
Yes, I think it's incumbent upon all of us who are starting to wake up that there's more to life and what we need to do with our thoughts and speech, as more people awaken to the fact that I am more in control of my life than I realize, that I actually decide my own destiny, I create my own reality. When you start to understand that, why can I create my own reality? Because I'm God inside. I'm God inside here, right? So if I'm God inside, here's I want to turn everything around. We are not physical beings with a soul. We are a soul that's clothed with a physical body. There's a huge difference. Your essence is actually spirit. Your essence is this godliness, this divinity that you have. That's your essence. That never dies, right? When your body stops working, your soul's still around. Okay? Now, here's the interesting part about that soul.
It's very interesting. I want to say something about that afterwards. Continue.
I just want to, okay, I'll just finish off with the idea of our soul is your soul Dayna? No. Is your soul, where is your soul? Is it here? No. It just is. When you understand that who you real being of yourself is, it's not Dayna. It's not Dayna living in Israel. It's your soul just is. Okay? This is something hard to initially absorb, but your soul just is. It just is, there's a saying, they call it, I am. I just am. I'm just there. My soul is just there. So if you close your eyes and you just feel this pulsating part of your body, pulsating in your legs, the tingling in your legs, or the tingling in your heart, and just feel that. What is that? Is that Dayna? That's not Dayna. There's nowhere carved in it or anywhere does it say it's Dayna. It's your piece of God. You were called Dayna when you were born, but that's not who you take with you. And especially we know there's Gilgul Neshama, right? Your soul keeps coming back. We could discuss why that is so, but and how many times you come back, okay? But that soul is not Dayna again, because that soul is the same soul. It no longer carries the name. It's not really who you are. That's your outside. So when you understand who you really are, which is this incredible divinity that's a piece of God, a piece of the Echad, because everything is Echad, everything is one. That's like the Hashem Echad. And by the way, I want to just share one thing with you. Echad in Gematria, which is a numerical value assigned to each letter of the word Echad, equals Ahava, love. So pure unity is actually love. That's what love is. It's this need to reattach yourself to the oneness. Okay? That's who we really are in their essence.
First of all, wow. I'm trying to take it all in. I had a few questions from what you said. I'm going to try to remember.
No worries.
First of all, because we have been raised in an era of fear, Judaism, and not Ahava, and we've only understood that now at this stage in our lives. Is there any way that we could, if we had a chance to start again and raise our kids from the beginning, could we raise them in a way that they understood all of those principles from an early age? Or do you have to be a certain age to come to that understanding? Like, I know that they say with the Sefer HaZohar, they say you're not supposed to read it when you're a child, right? You only after you've had life experience can you fully understand the complexity of the text. True, right? Can we in some way give our children that foundation so that they don't have to be in the situation to find out those things now?
Yeah,
Do you
so
understand
I understand
my question?
100%, and I'm actually going to say, absolutely, you can. And I'll explain it with just a little bit brief background. When you go to sleep at night, before you fall asleep, the state that you're in, which is called the state of akin to sleep or theta state, is the state where your mind is very open to being reprogrammed or brainwashed. Your subconscious mind is open to receiving good ideas, positive ideas, or negative, depending what you feed it. So you have to be very careful before you go to sleep not to take with you any negative thoughts because that's what's percolating the whole night while you're sleeping. So, and that's called theta state. And when you wake up in the morning, initially, instead of getting on your phone and seeing how many Piguim were in Israel or how many soldiers Chas v'shalom were killed or anything about the Chatufim, you need to understand is that's how your mind is going to be programmed in the morning because you're in theta state when you wake up, in that groggy state when you wake up in the morning. A child from 0 to 7, okay, is in theta state. So a child from 0 to 7 can be very easily brainwashed with
Right,
ideas that you give it.
right.
And then after that state, much less so, okay? So you have an opportunity to train your child with positive thinking, how to use their mind, how to use their thoughts, how to use their speech. You have an amazing opportunity to do that with your child from 0 to 7. And you need to be very vigilant and very careful what things you feed your child and what you hear, what they hear you saying. Okay. My father, who was, I love very much, he's not alive today, but he used to say to me, I'm a worrywart. What can I do? And he didn't know what he was doing. He had never had training or understanding of, that these thoughts and speech, how they affect you like that. But it was the wrong thing to say because worry's the devil. Well, what do you need to worry? Why do you say that about yourself? And you're defining yourself, right? When you say I am about anything, you're actually deciding what you are. And you've convinced yourself, now I am that person. So wouldn't it be better to say things always work out for me perfectly? Or or I know I'm always protected by God. God is always protecting me. He always got my back. Wouldn't that be a better thing to say and convince yourself of that? Because the other way is also it's just not true. You have a choice, what you can choose, what to say. So a child, you have this, it's I have grandchildren, and so this is what I'm trying to inculcate them with. Again, there's their environment too. They're affected by their friends and everything, but yeah, you want to feed those children the greatest things that you can feed them.
You don't get another chance.
Exactly.
I belong to this Facebook group of Jewish women talk about anything. And there was a post a few weeks ago about this woman she says, she's an Orthodox woman. She has a bunch of kids. She says she hates her kids. She doesn't like her kids. She hates being a mother. This is not something I don't think she says to her kids, but they definitely feel it. And I wrote a comment that get your shit together and fix yourself because you're destroying your kids' lives. It's not just for now that when they're living in your house, this is a, um, a burden they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives, and it'll infiltrate into their marriage and into their home. I'm like, fix yourself. And people were angry at me. How can you be so harsh? People don't realize these years that you have with your kids, even though it's hard, physically difficult, it's a lasting impression for the rest of their lives. Look at how much therapy we're all going through talking about our childhood. You only get one chance.
Yeah.
And it's really important. It's something that really bothers me.
I would say that lady's probably got a lot of other stuff going on because that doesn't come out of, a vacuum. And
For
why was
sure.
she saying that? Was she unhappy in other places? Why is
For
she
sure.
unhappy? I mean, there's a lot there to
But
discuss. Yeah.
fix it. As an adult, you have the response. Once you have children, you're not only responsible for yourself anymore,
Yeah.
and it's hard to find the balance between taking care of yourself and taking care of your kids. But if you're already producing these people, like, you have the responsibility to take care of them. And that's not just putting food on the table and clothing them. It's the responsibility of this is the next generation.
Yeah. So there's lack of awareness. There's a lot of lack of
Yes.
awareness. Let me ask you a question. Who do you learn parenting skills from? When you get married and you have your first child, have you taken courses? No, no one's taking courses, right? We're just doing it.
I always said there should be a parenting course before people decide to have children.
Well, maybe instead of teaching kids, my wife always likes to say this, instead of teaching kids what happened in 1751 in Spain, we could actually teach kids actually how to think and how to use their minds properly, how to speak properly, how to deal with finances when you go out into the real world. Instead of courses that really have no bearing on your life and you actually willingly forget after you take the test. So why are you learning this kind of stuff? It just seems so backward. And would it behoove us to really, sit down and teach kids, hey, you're having ego thoughts. You're having bad thoughts. Here, why don't we meditate? Let's show how to people to meditate or breathe when they're in a place of panic. Let's show them what kind of breath work will really help them calm them down so they can actually think straight. Because when you're in panic, you can't think straight. Shouldn't we be teaching these kind of skill sets to people? And you know what? I had to learn it on my own. And the only reason I learned it on my own because I got to a state after Gush Katif where I just hated everyone and was pissed off. And I guess I had the wherewithal to understand this is not healthy and I need to figure a way to change myself. But not everyone has that luxury, and so people are just stuck in their lives without anyone showing them how life can be so much better, and actually just how to deal with life in the correct way so that you don't keep sabotaging yourself and hurting yourself with all your bad thoughts and speech. When someone always goes, their life sucks, right? Or sometimes people have this tendency where they'll go, "I'm such an idiot," right? That's the worst thing you can do, self-deprecation. Self-deprecation is literally the worst thing to do. It's a lack of loving of yourself, and everything in this whole world starts from actually loving yourself, seeing yourself for who you are, that you're a worthy person of love, and you're worthy of everything that the world has to give you.
So let's say you don't. Let's say at this stage in your life, there are a lot of people listening here who maybe don't understand what you're talking about, or they want to change, but they don't know how.
Yeah,
You're stuck in a really bad situation.
yeah.
Shoot, how do you change?
So the first way that I think is the greatest way to do and the easiest is watch what comes out of your mouth first. Your thoughts are harder to control. As I said, you can't control thoughts, so you need to do meditation, you do breathing, you need to do all kinds of things to work with your mind, but at least start with your mouth. Take a day or two, okay, just a day or two with a little booklet and write down what comes out of your mouth. You will be shocked of how many negative comments come about your mouth, about yourself, your family, the government, your neighbors, you name it, your family, whatever. You're going to be shocked how much comes out. And when the pasuk in Tehillim says, "Nitzor leshancha meira," watch your tongue from bad, right? Usvatecha midaber mirma. When it said that, it wasn't just lashon hara. It's face value. Watch all bad coming out of your mouth. Okay, there's another pasuk, shomer piv ulishono, shomer mitzarot nafsho. It's in Mishlei. One who guards his mouth and his tongue, protects himself from the tzarot of himself. Okay? That's a very powerful pasuk because what it's showing you is it's harmful speech. And when you watch what's coming out of your mouth, you're actually watching yourself. Okay? Illness can come because of your speech. You can become sick because you've talked yourself into sickness. Okay? When a person says, let's say someone has cancer even, they shouldn't tell anyone they have cancer because then they're defining themselves and it becomes part of them and they accept this idea that they're sick and it inhibits their ability actually to get better. Okay? Because it's so powerful, the creative forces of speech, and you have to accept this because God said yehi or. He actually said, let there be light, right? He said everything he was saying yehi to everything, and he's using speech to create it. He didn't have to. God could have just created it. Right? Why did he have to say Vayomer Elokim? Why does he have to say that? And it teaches us how powerful speech can actually really, really be.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And we have to take that into consideration. So start your life off. Your life will improve dramatically just by changing the way you speak. And make sure you don't say, "Oh, I hate that person. Oh, that guy's a schmuck." Right? I had a guy in shul say to me, I want that guy to die. He's a schmuck. And I'm thinking like, Do you know what kind of bad energy this guy's gonna bring on himself? He doesn't realize it even. And so just stop your speech. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about the Khatufim. Don't talk about the army or the government or Bibi or Haredim. This is all just bad speech. Okay? Instead, when you see your child, you say, wow, you're amazing. Tell your kid he's amazing because that is beautiful energy you're sending your kid. And you can't go wrong with that. It can only be a positive effect by you telling your child he's amazing. Okay? Or I love you. Or do a whole panapano all day. Say, and you don't have to do the whole thing. Just say thank you, I love you all day. Gratitude and love all day will change the way you view people. And
How has it changed your life since that time with Gush Patif?
well, I went through a couple periods, okay? And I got to be honest, COVID wasn't easy for me where I lived. It was good.
You were under attack.
Okay.
All those dorks, yeah.
And
We not say where you live.
and I don't want to say anything bad about anyone there.
Okay.
But what I would say is like this is that
You should know the other day I met someone from Hashmonai. Oh, sorry.
No.
I'll delete that.
Okay. Yeah. So I would put it like this. I could have handled it much better. Okay. I thought I was doing a service by taking a stand at the time that I did. But I understand now on a much deeper level that silence is golden at times. And just keep your mouth shut. And
You think you made a mistake? Can we just
I
tell
would
people
say-
what would not
I would say in
place?
the way, let's say in the way that I handled it, I could have handled it smarter in what came out of my mouth at the time and the things that I said and how I addressed the people. Okay? Because you always have to weigh in yourself, the thing you always have to weigh is this comment or what I'm saying right now coming from ego? Or is it coming from a place that I really want to help and I want to serve? Okay? And you have to differentiate. And I would say that too many, perhaps, of the things that I said at the time were coming from ego. And not
You were also under attack.
that's fine. But you know what? That's okay. You know, you gotta go inward. You gotta meditate on what's going on. And why am I feeling this way? What's driving me to feel this way? Are these feelings correct? Are they not correct feelings? You need to do the work, as you know. You need to be vigilant with the work that you do. And this is all part of it. You know, you don't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm this guy now, I'm just chilling, everything's great. It's constant work to constantly filter out what's good, what's bad in your life, what thoughts you accept, what you don't accept.
So why didn't you do it?
What?
You're already in this process, right?
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes you're not perfect. You know, you don't, you need, yeah, it got me to a whole new level. Let's put it that way. Okay. It did get me to a whole new level of connection with God and many other things that came into my life.
So it was a blessing, sort of.
It always is. But that's the thing. All these things, they're never bad. They're always, you know, they always contribute to your own personal growth. And we could call them redirections in your life, whatever you want to call them. They're always good. So my experience there was I was meant to have that experience.
Yeah.
I was meant to have it. I was there and I was meant to have that personal experience, which a lot of people maybe not understand what the hell's going on because we haven't really explained what's going on. But I took a position against the shots and COVID, and it was not the popular position.
And wearing masks, too.
And wearing masks as well, and that wasn't the popular position. And then, you know, and everything that goes with that and the backlash that it has. One could say the same thing today. You know, if you were to take a position where you say to someone, hey, and this is not my position, but I'm just throwing it out there, where you say, I think the Khatufim issue is too much. It's you know, overdone. And what is wrong with all these people, right? What would happen to you is, or let's say you started taking down signs in your yeshuv or wherever you live of these things because you don't want to see it every day, right? And I can understand why people don't want to see that every day because it makes them depressed and they don't want to be depressed every day. So let's say that was your choice, right? You would see a lot of backlash against that person, correct?
Yeah.
There would be a lot of backlash. And then you have to say to yourself, well, is that worth it? Even though I may believe that deep down that it's wrong, but is it worth it for me to do something like that? And not only that, I'm getting these people to get even angrier. I'm getting to be even lower vibration. I'm getting them to be just more destructive in their thinking and their speech. Is it worth it for me to do that? And I think that's the point I would have said in COVID. If what I'm doing, is it worth it? Okay, because the people that may have thought like me, I knew those people. The people who didn't think like me, I'm not going to convince them. So all I'm doing is causing havoc, and that doesn't help anybody.
So after COVID,
Yeah.
how has it affected your life? Do you think that everything now is perfect because you are so careful with your speech, that you meditate, that you have more control over your thoughts? How has it affected the trajectory of your life?
Well, life is perfect at every single moment. But we won't get into that because that's a hard concept for, I think, maybe a lot of people to understand. But when you're in the now, this moment, right? So when I'm in this moment right here, we'll call it the rega. So the resh gimel al ayin, right? So I'm in this moment. So when you're in this rega, you're actually, when you can be now and not think about the past, I'm not thinking about the future. I'm just here present in this moment. It's perfect, right? If you don't worry now, you have no worries, because worry is only about the future, but the future hasn't happened. So if I'm only able to be present now in this exact moment where I am, it's a perfect moment. And every moment that you live in the present is a perfect moment. It's only when we try and project to the future or go back to the past, because the past is always regrets and the future is always worry and anxiety. Okay? And the past is worse than the future because the past is gone.
So how can we amplify the moment?
So you have to look at everything
Because
in the
it's fleeting.
moment
It's going.
and have this awareness of your moment. In other words, see where you are, enjoy your moment, enjoy the time with a person. Today, more than ever before, we have a phone and, you'll be speaking to someone and you're going, like this, you know, and so you're not here, not there,
Right.
right? You're definitely not in the moment. You're not enjoying the here and now. And what's happening is this is taking you away from all joy, because this is causing anxiety and stress. And the magnetic vibrations from this actually keep you all shaky and everything. That's why people, when they're on their phone too long, they feel this anxiety of sorts that they go through. So it really, you need to find a way to be present with people. Okay. You need to go to nature because nature is present. When you're in nature, you're receiving everything from nature. Nature's all giving, right? And nature's all love. It just gives you incredible vibrations. When you go into a forest with leaves and trees and everything, you can feel it. And, if you're a little bit more open and aware, you're feeling this incredible gift that the trees are all giving you. The oxygen that they're feeding you, right? There's just something there that they just want to give. And so we need to, especially in this day and age, and especially with what's going on in Israel, you need to take some selfish moments. And I don't call them selfish. I shouldn't use the word selfish. You need to take moments for yourself where you're just fully present. And when you're in that present state, you become more grateful and you have no worries. And worry is the devil. And I'm going to keep saying the word devil. Worry is the devil and doubt is Amalek. Okay? Those are the two things I'm going to keep saying over and over again. And because I want to go back to a pasuk, and this is really important for people to understand this, because the way you think of things, the way your mind decides things, okay, is how your life turns out. It's a law of the universe. And actually, in Job, I brought this up last time in the 3rd chapter, Job, who had terrible things happen to him, right? And then in the 3rd chapter, he reveals to you why it all happened to him, because he says, Pachad pachadati vayetayeni, that which I feared happened to me. So, first of all, why does it say Pachad pachadati twice? Like the fear that I feared. And my take on that is, if you're afraid like just once, okay, that's not a big deal. But when you have this constant fear, that's like the pachad pachadati. You're constantly fearing that thing. Either it's your health or the loss of money. If you're constantly fearing it, it's going to happen to you. Because that's the law of
So
the
how do you
universe.
change that?
The opposite. What's the opposite of fear?
Love, acceptance,
Faith.
faith.
Okay? And you have two choices in life. You can have faith or you can have fear.
Faith in Hashem?
Faith in God, Hashem, the universe, divine, infinite spirit, infinite intelligence, source of all, whatever you want to call God. The word Hashem is the worst word ever to use for God. I'd rather use Ein Sof, okay? If I'm going to use anything, or if you want to say Elohim, use Elohim, and you say the hey, you don't need to say Elohim.
Okay, I'm sorry. You knew what I
Okay.
meant. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just doing it because people hear the word and they don't know God. So that's what I'm saying, is that there's this infinite power out there that controls everything. The Echad, he's the Echad. He is the one, is this being that controls everything, and this being is all love. And this being only wants your good. Okay, but the thing is, we, in our own machinations, we think, oh, I'm going to work it out. I'm going to control my life. You can't control your life. We discussed this, right, about plants. Right? You could do everything you write for the plant and it still dies. In other words, there's a force out there that is deciding things for you. And we need to learn, and this is the key, we need to learn the limits of our control and then how to give it over to God. Okay? David HaMelech has a beautiful pasuk in Tehillim Nun Hey, Perek Nun Hey, where he says, Hashlech al Hashem yahavcha, b'hu yichal kalecha. Throw on God your burdens, and he'll take care of you. God is telling you, give it over to me. Give it to me. But the problem is we sort of give it over a little bit, but not really. Then we pull back. No, I got to do the work. I got to work 15 hours because if I don't work 15 hours, I won't be successful. But it's just not true. That's not how the world works. Okay? And what happens is when you control, you keep trying to control, you actually push out God. And you're basically saying is, I don't want your help. But you need to understand is that you have a senior partner. He's the senior partner. You're the junior partner. Okay? He's the senior partner. And the idea is that this divinity that's out there, this force that's out there, he wants to help you. But you need to allow him to help you. Okay? And we need to learn that. We always talk in yeshiva about bitachon and emunah and all that, but you're not really taught how to actually do it. And you know what the crazy thing about faith is? There's no halvesies. It's all in. You got to be all in. You got to be all in with God. Okay? You need to know that there's this person will work it out for me and that it's already in the works. And you need to trust. You know, there's how many psukim can you say has the word trust in it in Tehillim? Okay? Probably about 100 psukim have the word trust, right? There's a pasuk in Mishlei, and also in Mishlei, by the way, and there's a pasuk in Mishlei where it says, "Betach el Hashem b'chol libecha." So give this fullness of trust to God with your whole heart. Ve'al binatcha al tisha'en. Do not rely on your intellect.
Where is this written?
In Mishlei,
In Mishlei.
Shlomo HaMelech, the smartest man, is telling you don't rely on your intellect. Do you know why? Because Shlomo's smarts didn't come from intellect. Okay? He wasn't the brilliant genius people think. Because when you actually see what he asked God for, was a lev shomea, a heart that hears. If you look in Melachim, he said lev shomea. What that meant was intuition. Intuition is the godly part. Intuition is when you quiet your mind, is what you receive from your soul. It's the godly connection. That all those things that you get, the inspiration, the intuition, the hunches, all those things, it's coming from your soul. It's not coming from your brain. Your brain sucks.
Can I tell you something funny?
Sure.
I asked ChatGPT this question this week. I saw something really cool, and so I decided to have this conversation with ChatGPT about spirituality, and I asked if his information is coming from a person or a spirit.
Okay.
Okay? And he said a person, but also a spirit. And I said, am I able to feel the product of a spirit as well? And he said, yes. How? With intuition. Exactly what you just said now, right? Intuition, and all those words that go along with it. And it's true. These things come into your mind and they give you direction, and it's from this like, and you don't know where it's coming from, but you feel it in your soul and in your gut.
So I spent a lot of time researching intuition. I want
Okay.
to understand more and more how to,
Isn't intuition also from where you are? Like it comes from your experiences as well, no? The form of your intuition is based on the environment that you're in, no? Or the environments that you have been in.
it's a good question. I don't have a good way of
Well, it's
answering.
like a criminal. He has intuitions as well.
Yes. So, okay. So I guess we could talk about, meaning his intuition, is he going to get caught or not? Okay. So that could also be that his soul is telling him, like, stop doing this, get out, whatever it may be. But intuition really is um, soul direction that you can receive. It's usually, it appears intuition, and anyone can check this out for themselves. It's usually very quick. It's almost like a little nudge where you just have this feeling for a split second. And then what happens is it's telling you what to do. And you need to cultivate that and hone on in it. Okay. You need to have experience with it to know when it's your intuition.
Can you access
Because,
intuition?
yeah, I'll tell you in a second how.
Okay.
I'll tell you how. Um, but what happens at that moment usually is your thinking brain, your logical mind starts to act and saying, well, but what about this and what about that? And then you lose it. So, what you need to do is, if when you understand the power of the intuition and where this message is coming from, and that it is the truth, it is the right thing for you to do, then you need to shut down your brain. Okay. And it's only through experience that you'll be able to do something like that, where you understand what you're doing. And the way to access intuition, the best way to do it is actually through meditation. Okay. And it's really through doing parasympathetic breathing, which is, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's really taking, I'll show how it is. It's 2-2-4, which is essentially do that for 5 minutes, focusing on your breathing. You'll get into a state of theta. Okay, this relaxed state. When you're in that relaxed state, and because you've been focused on your breathing, you've actually been able to detach from your mind, your thinking mind, which in itself, if you just did that alone, you'll feel pretty damn good because you'll have given your mind a break from thinking.
Do you
Okay.
keep your eyes open or closed?
No, always closed. Okay. Always.
Is it important to keep your eyes closed?
Yes. Yes. Because it allows you to go inward. Okay. I mean, again, you can probably open your eyes and do it, but what's happening is while you're breathing, you can't help but see things, and then your brain is working. So you want to keep your eyes closed so that you're just seeing darkness. You're not seeing anything. And it allows you to go more in. It allows you more to focus on the in, the hold, and then the out. And do that for 5 minutes, and you're already giving your brain a really, I mean, your mind relaxation. It will calm you down. So even whenever you're in a state of panic or fear or whatever it may be, and in Israel, unfortunately, there's so many situations that are presented for that, do that kind of breathing, parasympathetic. It just really is that 2 in and 4 out, or 4 in, 8 out. It always should be double what it is. And that's going to really relax you and get you into that theta state. Once you're there, okay, you can just start to listen. So once you're in this state of relaxation, then you're ready for what we call meditation. There's many different types of meditation out there, okay? So many, and they're all amazing. Each one has its function and purpose. But the thing that most people should really start with is to just get in that state of relaxation and be the observer. That's really the first beginning of meditation, is just observe either your thoughts or seed something, let's say you have to make a decision. That would be a great time for you to say, hey, I need to make a decision. I need some answers to this decision. And then start feel, what does your body respond to that? How do you feel about this? What is are you receiving even any answer? And it could be that it'll take time. You won't receive the answer right away. It could be that a week later, somebody says something and that's your answer. But the point is that you're able to start to work with your soul and start to receive answers from God, essentially. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not. And you start to receive answers from the divine, your divine side of you, as opposed to your brain side of you, which always fails you. Okay. And the
Yeah.
reason it's always going to fail you is because ego comes in. There's always an ego component, and it doesn't necessarily have your best interests. So you want to receive an answer that's intuitive, that's this, and I think in Latin, actually, intuition has something to do with God. I don't remember the word, but you can look it up. And so when you're in that state of meditation, you also can go to a place of, what do you want? So you can be in that meditative state and start to feel, what would it be like for me to be living in my mansion, my house, and start to actually feel it and feel as though you're there. Okay.
The wish
Well,
is already
someone
fulfilled.
who's ill,
Yeah.
right? And they have, let's say, cancer. So they can actually see themselves, I'm completely cured. And to go into that state of being cured, being full, I'm running around and I'm doing everything I want to do now because they don't have that cancer anymore. Okay. So meditation allows you to go inward on many levels. Okay. You could be doing it on a spiritual level where you just want to connect with God and you say all day anila do diva do di li. You say that mantra of that pasuk and connecting to God and feeling God's presence around you and feeling God flowing through you and surrendering to God at that moment. That's another possibility.
How often can you meditate? Should you meditate?
There's no
Th-
limit.
There's no limit?
No, and I think the more people meditate, the better. I think every time that you meditate, you bring down your blood pressure, you calm your body, you calm your systems. You probably you're doing just so much good for your own health.
But yesterday you said to me that maybe the fact that I'm focusing on one subject so much is actually sending a message to the universe that I'm lacking it.
Okay, so that's a different thing you're asking. You're talking about manifestation. I'm not talking about meditation only as a manifestation technique. I'm saying general. If you want to sit there, like we had in the Gemara, it said that the Hasidim Harishonim would be shon shah achat. They would wait 1 hour before they davened. They would daven for an hour and then sort of cool down period another hour. And it's very clear what they were doing was meditative techniques. Okay, so it means 9 hours a day they were in meditative state. Okay, but their meditation was all about God. It was a manifestation. So when we talk about manifestation, that's a whole other animal. Okay, and in manifestation, I don't think we have enough time to start really talk about manifestation here.
You know that we could sit here and talk all day, right?
Yeah, for sure. I can
It would
talk
go
all
by
day,
really
day.
quickly. I
But
love this stuff.
but manifestation is a whole other thing, and I would just say it very simply. What I've learned in the world of manifestation, less is more, and let go, let God. So I would say those are both. In other words, don't overkill it. You doing all these techniques because I'm going to manifest X. You need to let go because you're letting go sends a signal that I don't need to do anything anymore because I actually have it. Okay, that's the highest level of non-resistance that you can do. So you need to be very careful in manifestation not to create resistance, right? So there's an overkill where you're overkilling, but every time you're overkilling, you're sending a message, it hasn't appeared yet. I don't have it, right? So really what you want to say is, I do have it. And the idea behind manifestation is to always feel the feeling that you have it because God really wants to give you everything. You need to tell him though. You need to tell God what you want. There's a great writer. His name is something Walsh. Um, I forgot his first name. Anyway, he wrote a book called Conversations with God. Fascinating book, okay? We're definitely worthwhile reading. I haven't read the whole book, but I've read excerpts of the book. But he has one really great line. He goes, God always says yes. So be careful what you want. Be careful what you think and be careful what you say. So if you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to get screwed, God says yes. It's all going to work out for me, God says yes. So be careful what you do, right? And even our own perception of God, what is God? What is this God presence that we have, right? And we've all grown up with this ridiculous concept of some guy with a long beard in heaven who's going to strike you down, the Chara Af Hashem, which is mistranslated, that means that God got angry. But it doesn't mean anything close to that. Af means your nostrils. Chara means the heating of nostrils. What does that even mean? Right? And God, who's a Kel Rachum V'Chanun, a merciful God, and he's pure love, right? How could it be that he's so mean to people? Right? So again, it's a misunderstanding of God in general. God doesn't punish us. We punish ourselves. We bring it upon ourselves. We create our own energies, and those energies come back and they haunt us. So when you speak negatively or you think negatively or you do certain, we'll call them averot, for lack of a better word, right? We do things, where God's saying is you don't do this. Why is God saying don't do it? Because he's saying is if you do it, there's energies out there. There's karma. There's going to be a backlash, boomerangs of energy. So you need to be very careful what you do, how you perform and everything like that. But, and also especially how you think and speak, okay? Now, if we think about the way Nikola Tesla, you ever heard Nikola Tesla?
No.
So the car Tesla was named after him, okay? But he was a great inventor in the 1800s. Very interesting person because he actually never got married and he never masturbated. Okay. And I say that because he understood that that semen was this and this is really why people shouldn't masturbate, is for that. It's a very simple guy shouldn't masturbate because for that simple reason, that semen is this incredible divine energy that men carry inside of them, and that they can actually use this energy to create. Because if you think about what semen is, right, it's when it's implanted in a woman, it creates a child. So it's actually this incredible creative force that a man has inside. And if he can channel it correctly, he actually could be
Create life.
like God.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nikola Tesla understood that. And he ended up creating the first engine, right, through coils and everything. And he was and he would go to sleep in theta state. And he would have a pen and paper next to him at night. And all the answers he needed actually came from his intuition, not from his thinking brain. Okay. So he attributes this whole method of what he did in being able to actually create what he created. And he had a line that I think we can use, and I can prove it in Judaism. It definitely applies, is that when you want to look at the world, the universe, you need to look at it from a perspective of vibration, frequency, and vibration, frequency, and energy. Okay, energy, vibration, and frequency. That's how you need to look at the world, the universe. And I think that's how you need to look at God, right? We always see that God, when he was in Har Sinai, we had the kol of God, right? What does kol mean? So when you're in Eitz Chaim, in elementary school, they'll tell you it means sound, right? And that's correct on a certain level, but what is sound? Sound creates vibration and frequency and energy, right? That's what sound is. And God was on Har Sinai. In this last week's parsha, if you look at Et Hanan, you read the parsha, you see it mentions the word kol many times. The idea is that there's a vibration there, right? There was kol chazak, a strong sound, and and there was fire, and it was like a wild scene, right? But all these things are energies. And God is an energy. That's what he is. That's what we all are in our essence. We're all energies. And if you want to actually feel your own personal, spiritual, divine energy, I would suggest is go sit in a position. The best way to do it is actually not the parasympathetic breathing, although you can get there too. But if you just do like a Wim Hof breathing, so you go, do that for 5 minutes, and then sit in a position and feel the pulsating, your legs pulsating. Feel, what is that pulsation? What is that tingling you're feeling? That's your divinity. That's your divine energy field. okay?
Wow.
And so this is all connected. We're all one in terms of these forces. And so when I speak, when you speak, I'm speaking to you, it's measurable. I can measure my speech, what frequency it's at, right? You can measure all that. So that means is if I can measure my frequency of my voice, then I know the way I speak is going to be mashpia. It's going to influence other things. So when you speak negatively, okay, or you get angry, what's happened is you've created a frequency in the ether, okay, in the universe. And then what happens is you're carrying it with you. So most likely you're going to be in another situation, it won't take too long either, where you're going to have to get angry again because that's what you're vibrating. So when we understand it in that format of everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, and your mind also is sending out signals, right? So when you understand that, you've got to be really careful and you need to be in a high vibe situation. You need to make sure you're always in a high vibration and do ego check, ego check, ego check.
Wow. Abba, I'm really, really in awe of all these things that you're saying. I can't wait to watch this video again so that I can really take notes and observe everything. And I just want to tell everybody that after it's just it wasn't a coincidence, obviously, that we met, and I was obviously ripe for this kind of knowledge or this kind of.
Who's your intuition?
It was my intuition. But a lot of the progress of this show is because of the influence that you have had or have on me, and I'm really grateful for the fact that we met. And I know that you help other people as well, and that you're turning this into vocation of some sorts of counseling people. So I just want to tell everybody that
I don't
the
counsel.
or
I don't counsel.
guide
Motivate.
motivate.
Motivate. I want to motivate people. I
Okay,
want to help people and motivate them and show them there's a better way.
fine. So Abba is available to motivate, and I'll put all of his information if anyone wants to contact him. And I just want to say thank you for the influence that you've had on my life. You've helped me out in so many ways, and I'm grateful for whatever the divine spirit that put us in each other's paths. And I wish you a lot of luck and success and good energy in your life.
Thank you. I accept.
You accept?
I accept.
Yofi. And I hope that you'll come back again.
Zat Hashem. Zat Hashem.
Is there anything that you want to share?
Um, yeah, I think it's just something is be open-minded. You need to be open-minded now. Am Yisrael deserves better. Am Yisrael deserves to be happy. Am Yisrael deserves to have no more fears. We all deserve it. And it's time. It's time. I think the time of Geula is really all about us becoming closer to our divinity. And understanding is God isn't out there. He's not out there. God is in here. And we need to start connecting to our own godliness, our own divinity. And to understand is that when we do, that area there is no fear. There's no fear. There's only joy. There's harmony. And compassion. That's really where you want to go.
Are we further away from Ruchniut, from spirituality? Are we further away now than we used to be?
I want to just say like this. We're never further away because it's all here. If it's all here, we're really not far away. We've just been blocking it.
There are people who say that we're not zoche,
You know,
that we don't have
they need to do ego checks.
yeah?
They need to do ego
We're
checks.
always zoche.
Who are they to say we're not Zoche? Am Yisrael is amazing. Are you kidding? There's a Gemara it's a beautiful Gemara, Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish was this famous guy. He was the student and son-in-law of Rabbi Yochanan, and he was the one who was the Bal Machloket of Rabbi Yochanan. And he had a period where he was a robber, right? Famous story that Reish Lakish was a robber. And then he quotes this pasuk, and he says that it says in Shir Hashirim that I can't remember the quote now. Okay, something rakatech. I can't remember the name, but he says like this, that even the Rishayim of Am Yisrael, Malei Kirimonim, Malei Mitzvot Kirimonim, that even the Rishayim of Am Yisrael are full of mitzvot like a rimon. As you know, a rimon, they suppose it has 613 seeds in it or whatever. But the point is it has a lot of seeds. In other words, even the worst Russian Am Yisrael is full of mitzvot. We have to stop judging people that they're not doing mitzvot, they're not holy, they're not this, we're not zoche. Who are you to say we are not zoche? When Yeshayahu said that, the Malach went and took some tongs and took some a coal and burnt his lips. How dare you talk about Am Yisrael? And Am Yisrael was really sinning. But you never talk about Am Yisrael, we're not zoche. We're always zoche. We're always zoche. If we're a piece of God and we're part of God, we're always zoche. How could you talk about that? And we need to just stop talking that way about people. I hate this guy, I hate that guy. You know, it's easy to get sucked in that, but we got to stop it. And we need to just start loving, literally loving each other, okay? And if you have a hard time loving someone, then what you need to do is do something that they used to do in India, okay? This tribe in India that they used to say, I salute the divinity in you. If you can't say something good, at least say, I salute the divinity in you. I recognize your neshama. I recognize you have a neshama in you. Maybe start doing that, you know? Because Tamini Li, I know from Gush Katif how easy it was to fall in that anger trap.
Yeah.
And even during COVID, it was easy to get there. But you know what? It just hurts everybody, especially yourself. So we need to stop that. And we need to understand that it's a time of awakening. We are in a time of awakening. There's no question about it. More people are searching. More people know lo zu haderech. We need more. And, you know, when you're in this path, often it could be very shaky, very uncomfortable for many. La briut. La briut. Anyway, I want to finish like this. Say all day. Everyone needs to say all day, thank you, I love you. It will change your life.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Dayna Show. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to the podcast, like and share with your friends on social media, and rate us 5 stars. Don't forget to tune in next week, and we'll see you then.